Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, one and all, to Crawler Canyon. I hope you're all ready for a little bit of a competition today. We've got a competition here in the canyon. We've got some new stuff. We've got some old stuff. I'm your guy in the booth, joined today by the other guy in the booth. Say hi.
Hey, everybody. I'm just happy to be here. I'm not 100% sure what's happening, but I'll try to pick it up as it goes.
I wouldn't worry too much about it, guy. There's rocks, there's rock crawlers, and I'm tenting my hands together like meshing, like they mesh. You know what I mean by meshing?
I think so.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. We're gonna tackle some of these the areas that you're seeing up here on the screen. But before we do that, you're gonna have to pack your bags.
I was not told to bring any sort of...
Because we're headed off. We're headed away from here. We're in the canyon, but we're out of the canyon. We're headed to the harbor, to the Sky Harbor.
Okay, at this point, I genuinely have no idea what's going on, and I don't know who to ask.
Because the sky, you see, this is referential. We're not leaving. We're staying. We're not coming. We're going. And we're coming and going. And we're going this way. We're going to meet these two gentlemen. Because what are we doing today? We're going dramatical slow motion as we pull up on today's competition. Phoenix versus Phoenix.
This honestly makes about 5% more sense.
Well, then follow with me, other guy, as we check these two out. On your left, you've got a Vanquish VS410 Phoenix portal. And on your right, you've got a Vanquish VS410 non-portal.
That seems important. I'm gonna assume that's important.
Well, we're gonna find out, other guy. We're also gonna look at what else is different between these two in the Tale of the Tape. In the silver corner, weighing in at 3,433 grams, Argentum the Phoenix Portal. He has a 313 millimeter wheelbase, a 248 millimeter, that's outside to outside wheel track, and he is the grizzled veteran of this contest. In the red corner, weighing in at 3,385 grams, we have Eddie, the Vanquish Phoenix Straight Axle. He has a 305 millimeter wheelbase, a 240 millimeter wheel track, and he has about 5 minutes of total wheel time. So does that clear anything or everything up for you there, other guy?
I'm gonna say that they're the same, but they're different.
That is exactly right, other guy. They are the same, but they are different. Much like how this competition is going to play out. We're going to head over to Dead Limit. We're going to do a little... Here's a little teaser of what would ordinarily happen. This is a typical 6-line setup. We've got 6 markers down. You can just sort of see that top one almost out of frame. The objective is to stay in between the markers, navigate from the bottom to the top. That's rock crawling. It's pretty simple. Although sometimes it isn't. So this time around here at Dead Limit, we're going to take the same line, but we're going to mix it up. Everybody likes when we mix things up.
Wait, it gets more confusing?
And how that's going to work is we're going to run them simultaneous-like. So come along as we, the royal we, as we all hit 6 lines, starting here at Dead Limit. We will see if things like, do portals really make that much of a difference? I would be remiss, it wasn't done in the Tale of the Tape, but I would be remiss if I didn't point out that they are running identical power plants now. They've both been fused. Eddie had a little problem there. We'll just cut to a shot of Argentum making his way to the final up at the top. Oh, knocking some out of the way, but indeed, This does seem to be a line that at least leans into portals a little bit. Eddie did take some other hacks at it, as we can see here. Attempted a couple different lines of approach, and I don't know what it is. Perhaps some tuning still needed. As I say, very new. Doesn't have a lot in the way of tuning done to him. He's pretty raw in terms of setup. And it might come down to something as simple as perhaps J-Concept's tusks a little better suited to this sort of environment than the landmines, or as we're calling them, the monster mines on Eddie. Any color commentary for this other guy?
It seems like the silver one did it easier or better. I don't know what your preferred terminology would be. Better than that.
Better indeed, other guy. We're going to move directly over to line 2, Central Anomaly. Again, same basic layout, 6 markers. Try to do the same line. We've added that central set of markers to avoid driver laziness. Eddie, over on the right, hitting it a little bit harder, pushing a little bit quicker. Argentum opting for the slow and steady, staying pretty tight inside the markers. They're both pretty cleanly through the markers. Argentum a bit to his left, but they get up top, and once again, an instance where portals just drive you over the top. And if you're on straight axles, you've got to kind of bully your way through. But Eddie gets through, and they ran those two. They ran up that line pretty similarly, I would say. You can see Eddie's attack over that line. I don't know if that was CG supported, but he really got more of that big rock in between that middle set of markers than Argentum did. Argentum, when he dropped over, you can see he kind of pivoted around to the side. It kind of shoved him to his left, and I don't know if that comes down to CG setup, whatever, but it was just a little more of a natural line for Eddie than it was for Argentum. It's percentage points. Moving on to Daphne's other line. We hit all of Daphne's lines today. Could have hit Daphne's line before we hit Daphne's other line, but this is how they shook out on this day.
How many lines does Daphne have?
Again, see a little instance there. Portals, it's about ground clearance. Isn't it about ground clearance?
Oh, was that question for me? I honestly don't know the answer to that question, but I will think about it.
You absolutely should cogitate on that, other guy. We will continue to look at these two. Hitting Daphne's other line very similarly. Argentum, once again, has pushed a bit left. Argentum had some servo horn issues during the day. And by servo horn issues, I mean he completely blew the guts out of the servo horn that had been affixed to him for roughly one run. So I'm unsure as to whether this run came on servo horn 1 or servo horn 2. So he might have had some trim issues that have contributed to him shooting a little left. I'm not 100% sure. See, when he got out here wide to the side, I'm not sure. He ended up far out beyond where he wanted to be. Whereas you can see a little pop there by Eddie and just pushes him to the inside. So perhaps that was a line that lent more to the straight axle. We will see if Slick Rock makes a difference here. Again, Slick Rock tends to be a line that is more about tire than anything else. You can see here by the ghost of Eddie up there who actually ran this first.
So there aren't actually 3 of them.
Oh, there are far more than 3 of them, other guy. There's only 2 on the day, though, and Argentum kills this one. The tusk is a remarkable tire at this type of obstacle, just a little bit better than the landmine. But that wheel high action there by Eddie is something that the straight axle is much better at. His CG is just that little bit lower, and sometimes it pays off. But you can see here, as we show the alternate angle of Argentum hitting this, that he's just ready for this type of environment. Gets a little bit to the left. Once he gets a tire hooked over it, just straight over the top. Takes that down in just a matter of seconds. Now we're going to go to something a little bit steeper, a little more demanding. Undertaker. All of the markers on the left-hand side, because to the right-hand side only lies death. So it's just stay inside the markers. They both hit a pretty much identical approach. I'm not sure that this is particularly an environment that trends more towards portal versus straight axle. You'll hear some clicks coming from both sides, switching back and forth between different overdrives, engaging dig to try to keep the front end down. They've both pushed pretty much straight into that same marker. Argentum has managed to clear it. Eddie knocked one out. Eddie getting a little high belly there, trying to maneuver his way over, but again, Argentum has pushed further left than I think he wants. And the tusks have such a traction profile that he's now kind of hung up out there. So if this were a race, Eddie would have won this one. I think they both ran that with fairly equal cleanliness. It was pretty close. So other guy, tell him what you see.
All right, the red one.
Eddie,
right? Eddie is getting pushed a little to one side by that rock. That is a rock, yes. Whereas the silver one...
Argentum.
Right, Argentum. I guess he's got more ground clearance. You asked if more ground clearance was important. I think he did use that ground clearance to stay better.
Other guy, you are spot on. He did indeed stay better. If you caught the splash there, we are on to Oblivion. Same 6 markers, same line cloned, same amount of gear noise from 2 Phoenixes, twin Phoenixes chugging along here. This is a line where there's an initial, Argentum is just clearing it, Eddie is just pulling his wheels up on it. That's about 7 or 8 inches of vertical there. So breakover gets pretty important, and Eddie with the shorter wheelbase is going to have a poorer breakover angle, and not having portals, that's also going to hurt him as well, because it's just his chassis is closer to the ground. But he saw that vertical. He learned from his first vertical, and you'll see Argentum getting hung up a little here, a little complacency, I think, towards the top. He had a pretty easy time with it, so he got hung up there. How easy of a time, you might ask? Well, you can see here from the second angle a little better. Just straight up to the vertical, but plenty of forward drive, plenty of traction in the front end to pull the rear end up. That first overhang is about 2 tires high. And then Argentum's forte is a low wheel speed. He keeps it low and he keeps it slow. And as long as he's got traction, I believe that was a shift to the big overdrive there.
You're going to have to explain the big overdrive to me.
The Phoenix, portal or otherwise, is fitted with a VFD twin gearbox, which is somewhat unique in that you have selectable front overdrive. 6.5% is in the low configuration, and the large overdrive is 46%, which is a significant increase. And in particular instances, when the front isn't biting just right, or you need to push your front end down, switching to that big overdrive can really be helpful in assaulting certain obstacles. We'll see here from the other angle if Eddie opts to go to big overdrive as well, or if he runs this whole thing. I heard the click. So he has indeed shifted to the 46% to pull himself over, and really helps with things like bumps there. Moving on to what I believe is line 6, the final of today's 6th line. Can you believe it, other guy? Can you believe we're at the end already?
This does feel like it's gone by quickly.
So it has, my friend, so it has. We approach here our 6th and final line of this air quotes. I'm making air quotes, new guy.
I see that.
Contest. We hit Daphne's line, which is narrower than the wheel track of most rigs. You've got to hit it just right. Eddie has never hit this line before, so I'm not 100% sure he knows the line. Argentum, as we say, the grizzled veteran, the old hand, he knows his way around the canyon a little bit. So we will forgive any youthful indiscretions that Eddie made on this day. He got a little too high here on the fence, and if you get too high on the fence, it's going to push you towards the tunnel. But he didn't fall into the tunnel, and honestly, most people, most rigs, when they hit this the first time, they're going to end up in that spider web-filled tunnel. But here today, there are no losers here. There really aren't. You've got these two guys that are... What are they, new guy?
Same but different?
That's absolutely right yet again, new guy. You're coming along so well. You'll have this figured out in no time. So is this a 6th line where we score it with points and there's a winner and there's a loser? I don't think there is. Because, like the new guy just told you, they are the same, but they are different. There's tons of wheel time on Argentum, the Phoenix Portal. He has seen much of this course. He's been a valued participant since the days of Crawler Cross Raid. And, you know, at the same time, he's not infallible. He falls off of stuff just as much as anybody else. He's got cracks in the Lexan to show it. And sometimes he'll hit a line that Lil Yella can just masterfully take. And he turns in a little too soon, cuts back, and flops down onto the ground. Now, what kind of an example is that to set for the new guy? You got to give the new guy some tips and some pointers. Otherwise, he might blunder into it exactly like you did. So remember that, old guy. So while these two fail together, I'm going to let the new guy close this one out for all y'all.
Well, okay, I guess. I hope everybody had a good time.
And how about you, new guy? Did you have a good time?
You know what? I think I did.
Then tell him what to do, new guy.
Be sure to comment and like if you like it, and subscribe if you feel like it. And as the other guy says, most importantly,
We'll see you in the next one.